Let's
Yeah.
let's move on to talking about the upcoming tour. So the Blink Once tour, after a 2-year lockdown,
Yeah.
no live shows. How excited are you for this upcoming tour? It looks like it's all these dates, North America. It looks like there's the UK in there as well.
Yeah.
These are big shows, man. These are arenas, these are stadiums,
Yeah.
these are headlining festivals. How excited are you?
I'm so excited, but also talk about uh but I'm also cautiously I'm treading water here because here's the thing. For the past 2 years, we've been told that certain things, and it's no one's fault. Like it's no one's fault, but like it's like, hey, you're gonna get to do this show, and it's gonna be awesome. And it's great, cool. And then I get excited, and then another fucking lockdown happens, and you're like, okay, so that's getting canceled. So you know what? I'm just like, I'm letting go of the driver's. I'm letting go of the wheel a little bit, and just gonna let it kind of take its course, because. And I said this. I said this to this girl the other day. I'm like, you know what? I'll believe it when I'm in that green room about to go on stage. Then I'll be like, okay, this is gonna happen, and then I'll be really excited about it. But we just did 3 shows in Buffalo, and it was awesome. Like it was like,
That
you know,
was the same venue, right? 3 nights that it kept
yeah,
selling out and you kept
yeah,
adding
yeah.
more.
There's three solo nights, and it was so fun and like so much energy, and also realizing things like, oh, you know what? I'm 2 years older, and I gained maybe a little bit of weight, in the mid range, in the mid section, a little bit, maybe eating too many chips. But it's like, oh shit, like I actually, if we're gonna do these arena shows, like you want to be nimble, right? And so I'm like, I'm gonna have to like do some sort of exercise to like feel good, and like that's why I went to this massage thing, and I'm like, fix my muscles. I've not moved in like 2 years. I've been sitting in the same chair, like let's go, So no, yeah, really, it's gonna be awesome, and fingers crossed, everything kind of stays good for the next little while.
And you're about to hop on a plane for some more shows, right?
Yeah, we're going to BC this weekend. We're going to Kelowna. Just one show. We're opening for, or sorry, what are we doing there? Yeah, it's a festival. So Lights is playing. I can't remember the other bands on the bill right now, but
You guys must know Lights, right? She was in one of your music videos. Am I?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Her and Max are really good friends, and we've done, like, again, Canadian music industry. We've done so many shows. She actually took us on tour of the States. Like, I can't remember. I don't think High Noon was out yet. I think we were still on the Michigan Left run, and we did like a whole States tour with her, and it was awesome. Like she did some really cool rooms, and she's just amazing to watch every night too. Like just killer musician. Like it's crazy. And especially being a keyboard player, like it's like she does guitar and vocals and everything too, obviously, but she's an amazing keyboardist. So getting to watch, a front person do that every night is amazing.
Yeah. So back to that scene fest in St. Catharines where there was Il Scarlet and the Arkells before they were big. Lights was performing as well. Like it was all these, unknown artists, which is crazy. I saw her once she was big as well. And I, I wasn't a huge fan of the recorded stuff, like the singles. I wasn't a huge fan, but she was on a bill with some other bands like Mariana's Trench and whoever. And I was blown away with her live show. I became a fan and then started, listening to the recorded stuff after that because I got it finally. So
Totally.
she's super talented. So we have a question from Natasha White. This is off of Instagram. What is your favorite Arkell song to perform live? So you had you had a song you're most proud of, which is Strong, and then live, is there a song that you just can't wait to perform live?
They're all, I like, and I hate to say such a blanket statement, but they're all so fun to play. The like, it's funny, we don't really play this one too often anymore, but I love Drake's Dad. The groove just settles so, it's like just cutting through butter. Like it just feels so great to play. We don't really play it a lot live, but that's probably like one of my favorite songs to play live. And like the horn section in there is like, they do such a great job. Like they emulate the strings, and it's and then Tim's beat behind it. It's just great. We haven't played that one actually. I can't remember the last time we played it actually, but that one's super fun to play live. Yeah.
Awesome. Question from Michael Shanahan in Mississauga, Ontario. What is the most important aspect of your live show, and how many rehearsals does the band put in before hitting the road?
It depends, but more recently we've been rehearsing a lot more because again, like we're out of practice, right? So it's we're right now probably putting in a good like every couple of weeks we all get together for 3 days and bunker down and run through everything, and then we'll get like really longs like before we do our London Ontario show, like we're going to be in London like rehearsing at the arena, and we'll probably do like a full day of just past run through the set front to back. Yeah, more so now than before. Like before we never used to rehearse at all, but we were on the road all the time, right? So that's kind of where your rehearsals happen and where ideas come from, where you're playing, like if you have a bit or something like that you want to interject, it just comes from being on the road and you're like, oh, let's try this tonight, so but COVID, obviously kind of restricted us from playing shows, so now we have to rehearse, right?
So from Dustin Cowan in Guelph, Ontario, what was your favorite intimate setting show that you've ever played, and why? So you're getting used to these big arenas and stadiums and festivals, but bring it back to the basics here. Favorite intimate setting.
Intimate setting. Yeah, where's our intimate setting? Oh, that's a good,
like maybe in a market that you're not as big, you're on like a side stage. Sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to think, like when I think intimate, I'm like, oh yeah, we did this thing once for Indie 88 that was like Valentine's Day, and Max and I went and like played for
that sounds like romantic intimate
couples who want. Yeah, that's why I was sorry, that's the first thing that came to my head with intimate.
That's all good, you could share that one.
No, it was great. Yeah, we played for like these like couples who won. I think there was like a couple of people there that were like, well, I just wanted to come, I don't have a spouse or a relationship or anything. So that was kind of fun. The UK has been, I don't know, we haven't been there in a few years, so I don't know what the next set of shows are going to look like, but those shows were always like really fun because they kind of went right back to like, well, maybe with the exception of like London, because you're getting like a lot of expats, and so those shows were always bigger, but we would play like in Manchester for like 200 people or something, and those are like party nights. But like even Buffalo is like 800 people comparatively to like you're playing something like Bud Stage. That's more intimate and a lot of fun. Like everyone kind of surrounding the stage. It's a great time. Yeah.
So in 2018, you guys played at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. So that's the hometown for the band. So you guys played to 24,000 people. So there's only one band in Hamilton history that has had a bigger show. So you have the second biggest show of all time in Hamilton, the biggest show of all time, Pink Floyd. Like how insane is that only Pink Floyd has played a bigger show in Hamilton?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's wild, man. Yeah. Hamilton, man, they come out. What can you say?
They've got your back. I was wondering which band have you guys performed with that you were the biggest fan of before performing?
Oh yeah, that's another one that changes quite a bit. But who would have been my like like kind of full circle. We did a German tour on the Michigan Left tour with Billy Talent. So they kind of took us to Germany, and they're massive. It's crazy, like 10 to 15 to 20,000 people, and like it's crazy, like just and that's kind of was full circle because like I was like a fan growing up, right? Like like oh my god, that's probably the biggest one. There's probably something else that I'm kind of forgetting, but like we like a little bit of nostalgia. Like we opened for the Who for 2 shows, one in Detroit. I don't remember where the other one was. Another state, maybe it was Buffalo. Anyway, it that was crazy.
Seeing These Eyes live and American Woman and
no, not the Guess Who, like the Who, like the
Who.
Yeah,
oh
like
my god, Who. That's even bigger than
like Tommy, right?
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's see, actually that's funny because I probably would have preferred the Guess Who, right? Because like I know more of those songs. I don't know a lot of like the Who song, but just I remember
The
my,
history with the Who is
totally,
massive.
and it's crazy. And like, my dad was a massive Who fan as well. So like I grew up, like I saw Tommy, the musical, like, and that record and everything. And so that was kind of, there's a lot of nostalgia there. So that was kind of an interesting one. Yeah.
This is outside of the Arkells, but what's the best concert you've ever seen?
Ooh, that's yeah. Who? Um,
To give you a second to think, I went to a show where I went because I was a Queens of the Stone Age fan. So it was Death from Above, opening for Queens of the Stone Age, opening for Nine Inch Nails. So a triple bill. And I went for Queens of the Stone Age, and Nine Inch Nails was the best show I'd ever seen. And I became a huge fan after that. At Nine Inch Nails, absolutely the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I've seen them a
I
few
would
times
love to
now.
see that. I would have loved to see. Yeah, it's everything. It's different for very various reasons, right? Like, so Kiss, for example, has like one of the best, like, just circusy type live shows. There's so many bits, and like pyro is like literally will tear your head off. It's insane. So that's kind of a big one for me. On a really smaller level, I saw NoFX play at South by Southwest. They played in front of 200 people, and they did this thing called, and I'd only seen them at the Cool House before this, so like big shows, and they did this thing called Half Effects. So they played for 2 hours, but they played like 200 songs because they were only playing a verse, like an intro and a verse and maybe a chorus, but they'd always cut it off at a certain point, right? And I remember people in the crowd were getting so mad, like yelling at them and throwing things at them. And they're like, Fat Mike comes on the mic, and he's like, "Listen, you're never gonna see this ever again. Like, we're playing in front of 200." And I was like, "Yeah, like, why isn't everyone on board with this? It's fucking hilarious and crazy, And so that was, that's a vibe that I really loved. We just saw Tame Impala at the Air Canada Center, and I've never seen a better light show ever in the history of bands. Like, it's insane. Like, I knew 3 songs going into it. Like, I like Tame Impala. I don't know enough of their material to
Their
go.
last album was super critically acclaimed.
Everyone's saying that. I've been meaning to go back and listen to it, but like, I can pick out the singles, but I just, I wouldn't be able to tell you names of songs or anything like that. And I watched the entire show, and normally you leave, like, before the encore, or maybe at the encore, you're like, okay, what I mean? Like, I've had enough. I watched the whole damn thing, and I didn't know any song. Like, I knew the singles, the 3 singles that they played. The light show was insane. It was like another band member. So yeah, that's probably.
I'm picturing with the NoFX show with 200 songs. I'm picturing how small their font is on their set list. Like, you just imagine 200 songs across, a set list. You need a magnifying glass just to read it. So we're coming to the end of the fan questions. There's been a lot here. This is from Kyle Jordan in Milton, Ontario. At what point in your career did you realize that you had made it in the music industry?
I
Are you still trying to make it?
Still trying to make it, yeah. I don't know what has made it. I mean, here's the thing: you can pin it with different things, right? Like, like I'm able to make a living now, so maybe that is it, right? But then I'm like, oh, but you know what? We could probably do better in the States, and we could probably do better overseas. So maybe when that happens, I'll be like, I made it. Like, yeah, who the fuck knows, man?
So we have a question from San Bernardino, California. This is from Mark Maples. Whether on the road, in the studio, or just hanging out, what's the story that always gets told that everyone breaks out in laughter? Is there like a go-to band story that you guys share if you need one in an interview?
Oh, fuck. It's funny. Like, it depends on which interview we're at. You know what I mean? Like, are we doing something that needs to be a little more calculated? I can share. I can probably share a story that Tim and I laugh about. So Tim and I, like, spend probably the most amount of time on the road together. And one time we got really, there's so many. I'm just trying to think of which one I should probably tell. But we got really drunk and ended up, like, almost fist fighting each other, like, in our hotel room. And it's always like a funny thing to look back on, because it's like, we're really great friends and probably the closest out of everyone in the band, at least, and it was all because I don't know, we wanted to go out, but we weren't, like, lining up, and then we just started disagreeing with each other, and then just really, like, I had him buy a collar, and he had me buy a collar, and like, and he's way taller than me. Like I'm 5'9", he's like fucking whatever, 6 something, and like just towering over me, and like we're both like this ready to go, and then I don't know, and then we just went to sleep. Like we just like both like then we woke up and we were like, "Are you cool?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm cool." I'm like, "What happened?" And then like our guitarist Mike was like, what the fuck was going on in your room last night? Like it sounded like a brawl.
Wow, things escalated really quickly.
It was really fast, but there's like a bunch of shit like that, like that's like, just a lot of nothing. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's like a full dance or like everyone's involved, and I can't, like, we're always kind of like fractioned, like off into different groups, so yeah,
that's all good. So we have a question that is outside of music. So this is from Angelica Kovacevic from Winnipeg, Manitoba. What are your favorite books?
Oh yeah, okay. Favorite books. Okay, so probably in most recent history, the book that I really loved is a Stephen King novel called 11/22/63. And it's all about this guy who finds like a rip in time and space in like a shed and decides to go through it. And he ends up like around the time of Kennedy's assassination. So he's like, oh, like, can I change the course of time and stop this assassination? And like in Stephen King fashion, ends up being crazy. Actually, they made a mini series. I can't remember which, FX maybe or whatever, and James Franco is in it, and they actually filmed it in Guelph and Hamilton, and it's the whole book. And but I mean, as always, I love the book a little more. On the political side of things, a book that I think is worth the read and kind of heavy is Naomi Klein. She has a book called The Shock Doctrine, and it's really dense and really hard to get through, but it's like, I definitely was like wanting to throw the book like out the window a couple of times, because it's just, she really dives into a lot of stuff, like, geopolitical stuff, and it's a great book. So those two books, probably in most recent history, are kind of stuck with me.
If you could sit down for a conversation with anyone, living or dead, who would it be? And we've had someone that said, I wouldn't do it with someone that's dead because that's weird. So I've had some funny answers, but is there any like hero of yours that would be amazing to sit down with? I think of like, Eminem, or someone that's like, I feel like is super misunderstood or might be very different one-on-one than the persona. Anything jumps out for you?
For on a comedy perspective, I love Bill Burr, and I'd be curious to know how much of that is real. You know what I mean? Like, what
like
would
the attitude?
Like? Yeah, like, is he? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's real, but I'd be curious to know, like, at a dinner conversation, like, would he be on like that, and would he have those, like, just these, like, yeah, like the attitude thing, like, does he live like that, or is that just like a stage thing? So yeah, I'd be curious kind of on that front. They always say you meet your heroes, right? So
yeah. Bill Burr is so good, man. He's got to be, if not the best, one of the best comedians.
I love him so much. I saw him. I didn't know who he was. My friend took me to Vegas, and we were just hanging out. And he's like, "I got tickets to see Bill Burr." I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck that is." And I was on the floor just crying with laughter. I can't remember which cycle that was for him, but I'm all in on him. I think he just says it how it is, and he's super funny, and it's my kind of humor, like that kind of angry, like I'm Italian, so like the angry Boston Irish thing really works out with me, like. So
what's funny is he's not just an incredible comedian, but he's turned into a great actor. Like, he was in Breaking Bad, he's in The Mandalorian now. The King of Staten Island was a good movie as well.
He was great in that movie too.
What is it? He's with Pete Davidson's mom.
Right.
It's funny.
Was that Marissa Tomei in that movie? Or?
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, I
think so. Yeah. Final fan question. We got through all of them. I didn't want to disappoint any of the fans. So cool. This is from Mike Lamond from Ottawa, Ontario. What keeps the band going so long? The Arkells seem to always manage to come up with new bangers, and over like a 15-year period, that's a hell of a thing to pull off. So your longevity, what keeps you guys going so long?
Yeah, probably just all the stuff we talked about, like just it's it's a combination of like wanting to be creative with each other, and then also it's a job, and everyone is very aware of that, so you put there are petty differences that happen, but you put them aside because there's always everyone at least right now still has the same kind of goal in mind, where it's like, let's maintain, let's have fun, let's create.
So final two questions. Can you handle two more questions and then we'll wrap up?
Yeah, I gotta take a piss, to be honest with you, but let's go.
All right, we'll make it quick. So
no, you know what it is? I'm just like the therapist was like, you need to drink water. So I've just been pounding water this whole time, like thinking like, oh yeah, I don't have a bathroom break, but no, it's all good.
That's all good. You've done well. It's almost 2.5 hours. So do you have any musical dreams that have still not been achieved? You guys have achieved so much as a band, awards and gold and platinum and #1 singles, stadiums. Is there anything that's still on a musical bucket list?
I think, yeah, that's a good question. I think maybe like creatively, you look back on certain records, like speaking of Pink Floyd, you take like A Dark Side of the Moon, or you take like an Abbey Road by the Beatles, and I always kind of am like, were those like, were those thought out? Like, did they know they were going to do those records? Where they kind of just pieced together and then they just happened to be these like beautiful records, or and were they received that way right off the get-go, or did it take a while, so it's hard to kind of think. But on the creative aspect, I'm like, I just want to make like an Abbey Road, like, can we piece together something like that? But sometimes if you're thinking too much about something like that, it's not going to happen, right? So you kind of just, that's where that kind of like laissez-faire attitude comes in. But yeah, like just to do like a lasting piece of work would be, that's like definitely a bucket list for me.
So you have a young son. So this is my final question. If you could go back in time and you could sit down with, let's say, your 10-year-old self, if you could share advice to that 10-year-old cute little Anthony Carone, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, actually. I would say probably, relax, like when I was younger, there was definitely like a fight, for this sort of stuff. And I burned a lot of bridges, right? You know what I mean? Like with people that I was playing with, and as I got older and, talking about these situations where like things kind of just start falling in your lap, and then, and not to say that that's always going to happen that way, but like to let life kind of take its course, work hard, obviously, be ready when those things kind of come at you. Right. But to just relax emotionally, because I was a very like high strung and emotional teenager, and would get in fights with people I was playing music with because it wasn't lining up with what I wanted it to be, and in the end, did it matter? Like, did I need to ruin those relationships to get ahead, or whatever it is, like that, playing that kind of rat race game with them, but so that's probably like one thing that just what's going to happen is going to happen, let it come. And and not to say, I'm not, to anyone listening, I'm not saying to take a back seat and just like sit on the couch and wait for things to happen. It doesn't work like that. But emotionally to kind of separate yourself from it a little bit and try to look at the bigger picture. That's definitely something that maybe my 10-year-old self wouldn't really understand that, but you know what I mean? Like,
you'd plant the seed anyways.
Plant a seed. Yeah, exactly.
So we've covered a ton over the last 2.5 hours. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with Arkells fans or with the listeners? You have an upcoming album still, Blink Twice. Yeah. There's different things going on. Is there anything that we missed that needs to be said?
No, I think we covered like so much more than I thought we would cover, actually, to be honest with you. Like I remember when you were saying like it's a 2-hour thing. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I could talk for 2 hours. And then I'm like sitting here being like, oh yeah, I blabble quite a bit, actually. But no, yeah, just we're very, very excited to start playing again, and anyone coming out to the shows, like I think you're gonna have a really awesome time. Like if Buffalo is evident of that, and we got a lot of new tricks and up our sleeves, and the with all the new songs integrated, I think people are gonna have a really good time. And I think just whatever happens the next few months, if things lock down again or whatever it is, not that they're looking that way, but whatever happens, when we're all together, it's going to be such a time. And I think people are going to to feel the love in the room and the excitement. And I'm really looking forward to it. I know the guys are looking forward to it, and we're excited to see everybody.